Welcome back, everybody. In the 3rd Congressional District race for Congress, Rick Green is the Republican in the race.
Yeah, the Pepperell-based businessman will face off against Democrat Lori Trahan, who was our guest Monday night here on the 8. Rick Green, welcome into the studio.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. So we know that you started off initially as a Kasich supporter. You embraced President Trump eventually. We'll get into your feelings about all that, but why are you running for this congressional seat?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a businessman, and my brother and I started a business 20 years ago selling auto parts online in Pepperell, Massachusetts. And folks know Pepperell is a small town up on the New Hampshire border. What they may not know is it was also a mill town, like many of the towns in the Merrimack Valley. And in the early 2000s, the mill fell on hard times. A lot of folks lost their jobs, and downtown was hit hard. But within just a few short years, that little company that my brother and I started in a garage became the largest employer in town. And today we've created over 500 jobs. We're one of the largest sellers of online parts. We have over 6,500 YouTube videos where we empower our customers to do their own work. And when I tell people I know what it takes to get the economic engine of the 3rd District revving, it's because I've done it. And I've been so blessed with that success. This is my way of giving back, running for Congress to use my problem-solving skills to make sure everyone else has the opportunity that I had.
Where do you put yourself on the political spectrum? Would you consider yourself a Trump Republican, a Kasich Republican, something in between? Where do you put yourself?
Sure. You know, I don't find the labels that helpful. Quite honestly, again, as a businessman, I see this as an interview with the people of the 3rd District. They're the hiring manager, and they're going to decide who's best to represent them and their interests. And they're the folks that I got to win over.
Obviously, you're in a tough battle in a Massachusetts congressional race, right, as a Republican. And as a businessman, you know, you hear a lot of President Trump supporters who will say, a lot like Bill Clinton's team, that it's the economy, stupid, that the president has shown results, the economy is booming, and that is what they are focused on, and the rest is all noise. Would you say that that is where you are? That's what your message is? I know you don't like to talk about the president, but at a certain point, it's going to come up how aligned you are with his policies. For you, is it just about business?
No, it's not just about business. I mean, the economy is doing fantastic. My company is doing very well. Again, just speaking from my own experience, it's hard to find folks to work in some of the jobs. We have a lot of openings, and you know, we're chasing the folks. And that's great for the folks, and I'm glad it's that way. But the real issues I'm focused on, the local issues. Take a step back. You know, I've been on the trail for a year, and you know, what I noticed real early on is that there's this detachment. The folks feel a sense of they don't know what the federal government does and how it impacts them in their daily lives. So I started focusing on the local issues, and I found that actually got folks more engaged. When I started talking about things that they could see, like the commute to work every day. So roads and bridges and infrastructure. You may have seen the commercial where I jump in the Merrimack River and I swim across. But the Rourke Bridge is a temporary bridge that's been there for 35 years.
In fact, speaking of infrastructure, the Merrimack Valley gas explosions, let's jump ahead to that question, because that, of course, has disrupted lives in the 3rd District, in Lawrence and over in North Andover. What would you have done differently about the response to that, and what do we need to do in terms of infrastructure to stop something like this from happening again?
Well, and I wasn't privy to everything that happened, but I do have some experience. I used to build rockets. I'm a former rocket scientist, so I've dealt with pressure systems, you know, very similar in terms of, you know, the gas distribution lines. What I'm most concerned about is what's going to happen going forward. So if you think about it, think about a balloon. You blow up a balloon, you know, it gets too big and it pops, and that's what you had with the explosions. It's horrible. But you know, for everybody, the other homes, you know, when it shrinks back down, it's not the same. You know, it's worn out. And so they're going to test all these homes, and they're going to let folks go back in. But now these homes have been exposed to a pressure way beyond their design. And so what I'm worried about is 2-3 years down the road, what's going to happen? I think if the right testing regimen is not done and the right maintenance protocols are not followed, you know, going forward from now on. So it's not just what's happening now. It's what's going to happen in the months, weeks, and years to come to make sure we don't have more gas leaks, more fires, and hopefully no more explosions.
And you talk about infrastructure a lot, and your TV ad shows you dealing with that bridge. Does it frustrate you when you look at the situation? Like, what would you want for the 3rd Congressional District out of Washington to help what is an aging infrastructure in Massachusetts?
Absolutely. And again, I looked into this. So another thing we talked about is the Concord Rotary. Anybody who's driven on Route 2 knows the Rotary in Concord by the prison. And what I found is if you go to MassDOT's website, you can see every 8 years for the last 24 or 32 years, they have a plan on how to fix it. But when they start trying to line up the different regulatory approvals, and many of them are federal, you know, they run out the clock, and then the traffic study runs out, and they have to start all over. We spent millions of dollars studying the problem, and it's time to stop spending that money studying the problem, you know, and put it to work.
That is a local issue. We want to get to some of the national issues as well that you'll be dealing with heading into the midterms. Brett Kavanaugh, where do you stand on him? Governor Baker had said he wanted an FBI investigation. He wanted a pause in this to see what was going on. Where do you stand on Brett Kavanaugh?
Well, look, I think we can all agree most of what's going on down in D.C. right now, it's just a circus. And I'm not running to go join the circus. I want to fix local issues, roads and bridges, the opioid crisis, and again, we talked about jobs. I haven't been watching what's going on down there. In particular, in the House, wouldn't have a vote on it. So there's nothing. I learned a long time ago in business, if you can't have an impact on something, leave it to other folks and focus on what you can make a difference on.
Rick Green, Republican candidate for the 3rd Congressional District. Thanks for joining us tonight.
We had a couple of we do have time for a couple of rapid-fire questions here.
Okay.
Do you support President Trump's agenda 100%, or will you break with him if you feel you need to break with him?
I support any and all policies which are best for the people of the 3rd District. And I will support anybody from any party who's helping me to do something that's going to help the people in my district.
How do you feel about sanctuary cities?
I'm against them.
Lawrence is a sanctuary city. The president has said he might strip funding, federal funding from Lawrence. Would you support stripping federal funding from Lawrence?
Well, the first thing here is it's the rule of law. First we have to all agree that we're going to abide by the rule of law. My brother-in-law is a naturalized citizen. I believe we need more immigration, more legal immigration. But first we have to all agree we're going to abide by the rule of law. Then and only then can we talk about what we're going to do. And we just can't have sanctuary cities. The first thing I'm going to do when I go down there is take an oath of office and say, I'm going to support the Constitution and the federal laws. How can I run a campaign where I'm saying, that I'm encouraging others to not do the same?
Sure, but would you support stripping federal funding from them?
Look, there's no bill in front of me, and I'm not down in Congress. I'd have to take each bill, on its merits and
would you
look at it.
oppose that if that were proposed?
Again, I'd have to take a look at it and see what the proposal was.
All right. Rick Green, thank you so much for being here tonight. And, of course, he is the candidate for the 3rd Congressional District. Thanks for coming in tonight. We appreciate it.
And we will post both Rick Green's interview and Lori Trahan's interview online at cbsboston.com.
All right.
In the meantime, we want to get